We start in the occupied West Bank, where the Israeli army has launched a large-scale military operation. It says 7 Palestinians have been killed. Palestinian health officials put the death toll at 5, with more than 20 injured. Well, columns of Israeli army vehicles have entered the city of Jenin after a series of airstrikes on the refugee camp there. Well, the operation is one of the biggest raids by Israel in the occupied West Bank in 2 decades. Well, let's take you to live pictures now of the area of Jenin. As we said, it's the biggest operation that has been conducted by the Israelis in the occupied territories for around 2 decades. It's a large-scale operation against Palestinian militants in the Jenin refugee camp. Now, it started with multiple drone strikes. Israel then sent in ground forces, leading to what some describe as gun battles in the streets. The Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, say they were striking terrorist infrastructure in the Jenin area. Well, Israel's Foreign Minister Eli Cohen said Israeli forces have been targeting terrorism hubs.
We are striking the terrorism hub with a great strength. I want to emphasize that we don't have a fight with the Palestinians. Actually, our fight is with the proxies of Iran in our region, which is mainly with the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad, with both are a terrorist organization which financed by Iran. And Iran's target is to escalate our region.
Well, the Palestinian Prime Minister Mahmoud Shaida has this to say about the situation in Jenin a little earlier.
What is going on is an attempt to erase the refugee camp completely and displace the residents. The heroic Jenin and its stubborn camp are standing toughly in the face of the occupation and the raids, the same as all our cities and villages and refugee camps.
Well, the BBC's Joe Floto gave us this update from Jerusalem a little earlier.
So we have got some casualties reported by the Palestinian Health Ministry, but the thing to emphasise here is that this is an ongoing operation involving, we think, thousands of Israeli troops, and they're currently operating in mainly the Jenin refugee camp in the northern West Bank. It's closed off at the moment and ambulances are struggling to get in. So we are likely to see a lot of casualties at some point. We will get those figures when ambulance crews can reach the wounded and the dead. But for the moment, we have a handful of people who have been killed. But we do know that overnight, the Israeli military launched an airstrike against what it describes as a command and control centre, most likely just a house where people were meeting. They then continued with further airstrikes carried out by drones to clear the way for troops to enter Jenin refugee camp. And just to give you a picture, this is an area that's incredibly densely populated. Tens of thousands of people live in Jenin and the surrounding areas. Narrow streets, lots of people there, and the chances of people being caught in the crossfire are high. This is a high-risk operation, and we wait to see whether there are more casualties coming out.
Well, that was Joe Floto for the BBC. Let's take you once again to those live pictures that we're getting here at the BBC of Jenin. And as we said a little bit earlier, Palestinian officials have said that 8 Palestinians have been killed and more than 50 others have been wounded. Israel's foreign minister, though, says they're not planning, for now at least, to widen the operation to the whole of the West Bank. Now, as we said earlier, the operation started with a number of drone strikes conducted by Israeli forces and then went on to ground forces, leading to gun battles in the street. So let's cross live now to our correspondent Yolande Nell, who is in Jenin for us. And Yolande, bring us up to date with what you've seen in Jenin since you arrived there.
Well, all around us you've got this acrid smell. Tyres have been set on fire. There are protests here very early in the morning, and there have been gun battles continuing through the hour or so that we have been in Jenin. Regular loud thuds of explosions coming from particularly within Jenin refugee camp, which is over to my right, we've seen plumes of dark smoke coming up from there as well. It's obvious that this is still quite an intense stage in what Israel says is its extensive counter-terrorism operation. We are having statements from the Jenin Brigade, which is made up of different Palestinian militant groups, operates inside the camp. There are hundreds of armed gunmen believed to be present there. They're saying that their fighters will continue fighting what they say the occupation forces until their last breath. There are claims as well from the Palestinian militant groups that they have shot down one Israeli military drone. It was a drone that was used just after 1 o'clock in the morning to carry out the first airstrike. And to put things in perspective, although airstrikes are very common in the Gaza Strip, that is not something that we see used commonly in the West Bank at all. In fact, only in the last week have we seen such a kind of an attack being carried out by the Israeli military in the West Bank. Now drones seem to have been used for several strikes to clear the way for ground forces to enter. Things quickly became very lively inside the camp, but all around me in Jenin there is a general strike. You don't see anybody out on the streets, although we have had some gun battles in Jenin too. We heard one not very long ago just below the window here, and we've got the sound of ambulances who've been going past. We know that they are really struggling to reach what we know at the moment is at least dozens of people who are injured, Palestinians inside the camp, and there are claims from Palestinian militant groups that there are Israeli soldiers who are casualties as well. We don't know any official comment on that from the Israeli military.
Yolande Nell, thank you very much indeed. Yolande Nell there, our correspondent in Jenin.